Good morning, George. Good to see you.
Hey, Herb, it's Tuesday once again. We're elevating great physicians, and I have another one for you right here.
We have Dr. Reza. Welcome to the podcast. How are you today?
I'm good. Good morning. Thank you for inviting me. Pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you. Now, you have a most interesting CV. You started as a MD at GW. GW, for those of you that are outside the DC metro area, is George Washington University. So why didn't you become a pediatrician?
So after medical school, as you mentioned, I was aiming to go to become a pediatrician, and I was kind of burnt out. And that was even before starting. I wanted to take a year off, either do some research or work for a consulting firm to just because I knew once I get into pediatrics, I'm going to be doing this for the rest of my life. So I wanted to just have a little break between medical school and residency. And what happened was that instead of going to a consulting firm to do some medical consulting, I was introduced to a patent firm, and they hired me like a month after I graduated from medical school. It was a local patent prosecution firm. And then I worked for them for 1 year as a patent clerk, doing patent work. And then they hired me, offered me to pay for my law school, and gave me a full-time job. So I took it.
Oh, wow. But you had a very interesting clerkship in pediatrics at GW.
I did. I had a preceptor that we kind of worked with every week for a whole day during the first 2 years of medical school, and two preceptors. But one of them was a naval physician, a pediatrician, very long time. He had 4 or 5 kids, a very nice guy. I really liked working with him. He was so good with kids, very inspiring. But then even at the time when we were working together, he used to tell me, Reza, don't become a pediatrician. Don't become a doctor. So he kept telling me that, and he was burnt out. His practice was barely making it, and he was not even within the city limits. He was out, and he had a very busy practice. He showed me how difficult it was to run a practice, what were the issues, and I really at the end of medical school, thinking back with my experiences, I really wanted to make sure that when I get into medicine, it's something that I want to pursue. And I think his advice and my interest in law and the circumstances that happened, I think just pushed me away.
So you told me once that he would see 60 patients a day?
Yeah, we'd see, more than 60. I think my second preceptor, we were seeing around 70. It was 35 in the morning and 35 in the afternoon. Wow. We'd be there at 7 to 7. And then he would stay over and do notes afterwards, because we were.
But that's not a full day, 12 hours.
Yeah.
Okay? It's not a full day.
So that's why he stayed over and did.
You know what? These are the comments that, I don't know, they bother me when these doctors say this to people. That I've seen 70 patients a day. I think they're full of it. But if they do 12 hours, maybe they can see them. But I assure you and promise you 1,000% that they wrote no progress notes.
No, they didn't.
I did that. I did one day in my career, one day.
Yeah.
We took over the senior physician's practice that was on total paper. And that was not medicine that I did that day.
So
no, he stayed over, George. He stayed over for 2-3 hours afterwards writing notes.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You can't remember. You can't remember. But those were back in the days of ear infections, flu. Mm-hmm. Sure.
98.
Yeah.
Oh, so vaccines were there. So they were all on paper.
Pretty much, yeah. Everything was on paper.
Yeah.
Wow. And it's amazing. 70 patients a day. That's a lot. That's a lot of kids.
I've never worked that much. It was room to room to room, no lunch, nothing, all the way through.
Now, why did he do that?
I don't know. I mean, this is the second preceptor. I think the first guy wasn't seeing as many patients, but the second one was just, seeing a lot. I mean, it was good. I have to tell you, he was an amazing pediatrician. I think I learned a lot from him. He was very knowledgeable. His patients loved him.
Wow. Did he love it? I mean, was he excited every morning to show up to work and go see the kids, or was he getting burnt out?
I don't think he was burnt out at the time. I think he was enthusiastic. He was, very compassionate. He would take the time to teach me during this whole chaos during the day. I mean, I really liked him and I enjoyed working with him.
That's very cool. So then you went to GW to the dark side. You became a lawyer.
Yeah,
And
I went to the dark side, became a lawyer. Yes.
but at least you don't sue other doctors.
Well, that's a promise I made to my classmates because everybody was telling me, "Hey, Reza, you shouldn't do it. Don't go. Come do residency. Stay with medicine."
Oh, that's
So
very
I
cool.
said, I'm not going to become a medical malpractice attorney, and I never pursued it. Never went to it. I became a patent attorney, which I had actually physician clients who did medical device patents, pharmaceutical patents, pharmacy patents, medicine patents. So, I've always been hired by physicians to do something for them. And even now, my practice is focused on group practices and physicians' offices. And they hired me to come in and help them do regulations, get them out of trouble, or provide a service.
Great. We'll talk about other stuff you're doing right now. But as far as the legal practice, what is it that most of your physician clients are looking for in a lawyer today?
Yeah, so I do healthcare regulatory work, and I've been doing that. I kind of transitioned from patent back in 2009 into healthcare regulatory law. It was like a natural progression for me, just because my background in medicine and law kind of automatically pushes you that way. I had clients, I had people who wanted me to help them, friends initially who were asking me for help. So I kind of went into regulatory health law, and it is such a broad field. Health law, it goes all the way from FDA and regulatory FDA work, patent law, policy making, all the way to physicians' practices and what they do on a daily basis. So we had to focus. We had to really pick a focus as where we want to be in this whole spectrum, and we mostly focus on physician group practices. I've done some work with ambulatory surgery centers, but mostly, and home healthcare and nursing homes, but mostly we do majority of our work with physicians. So, the healthcare landscape since 2009, actually, after the ACA, has gradually been, just changing all the time. So, I mean, even today you have information blocking rules, privacy, how do we provide with privacy information. You have, balanced billing rules, you have state rules that come up, you have more federal regulations, you have agencies that monitor the practices, so there's always something changing. The Stark laws change, so now the collaboration between physician and hospitals can be different. The business models have been changing too.
Let me pick your brain a little bit about this, because the Stark and the Sherman Act used to regulate our practices quite heavily.
Yeah, how did
And
those
it's
change?
Yes, and I think that the Obama administration is enforcing the Chairman Act letter of the feds that said, you can't aggregate more than 30% of physicians or beds in any area. So what's going on with the Chairman Act and the other one right now in regulation?
So, I mean, those rules still remain. What happened with the Modernization Act for Stark and anti-kickback statutes is that they kind of added additional exceptions that now it allows collaboration between parties who are referring to one another for designated health services, or even referring under the anti-kickback statutes. They have more freedom to experiment in, just to put it simply, in ways that can benefit the patient, and kind of under the new business models instead of fee for service under the value-based medicine kind of a business model. So even though those rules they still kind of apply, I mean, they still apply, not kind of. Now there are a little bit of a loosening with the new exceptions, and you have to fall under those exceptions. There's a lot of documentation that you have to maintain. There's a specific way that you have to go about it. But now, because the federal government feels that we need to go from fee-for-service to value-based medicine, they're allowing doctors and physicians to get into these situations where they say, okay, this relationship between hospital and referral relationship between hospital would benefit patient care, reduce healthcare costs. So we're allowing you to get into that relationship, test it for a certain amount of time, probably, I think it's about a year, and then make a decision whether it's good or bad. So there are some loosening on that, on the Modernization Act that came out.
So if I read this correctly, one medical is receiving some sort of payment from a hospital system per patient on their Medicare Advantage plan. So is that the kind of relationship that is being allowed now?
Are you talking about the One Medical
And Amazon.
business?
Yes, the One
And
Medical.
Amazon purchased them. Yeah, so they are compliant at this time with respect to their relationship because they do take Medicare and Medicaid patients, but most of their patients, I think probably majority of their patients are, kind of the hybrid model of
Yes.
paying a fee and then being private.
But you know what's interesting? What I looked at their thing, and they have a membership subscription thing.
They do, but they waive. So when it comes to federal payments, they waive that subscription model for federal payment.
Okay.
So let's say under this, because they had to get a certificate of need in DC, under the certificate of need rules, they have to take Medicaid. So if they take Medicaid, then they have to kind of abide by the federal and state rules, and they shouldn't be charging a fee for services that are covered under the federal payment rules. So in order for them to get around that, they're waiving the fees for, some of these Medicaid patients. So they don't, get into that conflict with the.
Yeah, but membership fees are not something that's paid customarily by any insurance company.
Correct. No, but they cover a type of service that sometimes is covered by Medicare payment. So let's say, they say you pay us $20, so you have full access to the physician. Under the federal payment rules, Medicare and Medicaid say that, hey, if we pay you $100 for a visit, that includes you being available to the patient.
Correct.
You can't be charging for that and then charging. So that would be a double dipping. That would be the covered payment. So in order for them to get around that, sometimes they're waiving those specific fees that are considered covered under federal payer.
Yeah. So basically, they're through the membership, they're having access to physicians, text messages, telemedicine, all this stuff of today, filling out forms for school, camp, office visits, online appointments, access to the doctor, phone calls. I mean, this sounds like what general pediatrics is. Right. This is what we do every single day, and we don't have an access charge.
Right. Well, we'll get back to that in a minute. But what I read, that the reason why Amazon bought One Medical wasn't for the clinics, but they have in the Midwest a large Medicare Advantage contract with 70,000 members in a partnership with a big hospital. And that generates, I think, please don't quote me on this, but I think that generates 60% of their revenue. And they have an arrangement with the hospital where the hospital gives them money for that referral, like a monthly stipend for the referral feed into the hospital system. And so I was wondering, is that what's being allowed through these new rules? Some more integration in an ACO where the hospital subsidizes a primary care and to decrease cost all around?
So that's a good question. I have to say that I'm not familiar with exactly what the basis of the details of how these arrangements are made. I'm not an attorney for them, and I don't represent them. But this could be, if they are charging, if they're moving to a value-based medicine kind of a payment, and they're looking at it from that perspective, this arrangement could fall under one of the new exceptions, depending on how they structure it and what the end goal is and who's getting paid for what.
Very interesting, because I've always thought that it was totally illegal for the hospital to pay me any money to have any kind of relationship. Except if the surgeons get a lot of money to cover the ERs now. Right. They pay them a stipend per day to cover the ERs. And that's been going on for about 15 years. Right. So let's talk a little bit. I want to pick your brain a little bit, and we're going to have you back about contract law and some other stuff.
Hold on one second. What I don't understand is this membership fee. Yes. Okay. I've read a lot of insurance contracts. Mm-hmm. You're supposed to provide access to care. You're supposed to provide appointments, a certain amount of. How can you accept money from an insurance company for a fee-for-service patient, yet give them a membership fee? That sounds very not kosher.
Right. So some states, like Maryland, for example, in Maryland, the Attorney General has published a letter back in 2009 saying that we think concierge medicine or these hybrid models are suspect. We don't like it. They can sound like insurance. You have to structure it in a specific way. But the rules and the laws on this are not very concrete. There's not a lot of, aside from DPC model, the direct primary care models that are legislated and promulgated, there are not a lot of guidance or laws as to how to structure these. So as long as you stay away from the federal payers and you stay away from charging patients like you're an insurance company and sort of exactly provide a fair market value charge or fee for the services that you provide, and those services are limited, then you've kind of okay in this area. So that you can really move in this area until there is some enforcement.
So you're telling me if I'm a member of Dr. Herb's concierge practice or whatever, and I pay his membership fee, I can call up and get an appointment today. But if I don't pay the membership fee, I'm sorry, you got to come in 3 weeks. Is that what you're telling me?
No. So there's maybe
usually these guys are all concierge or all non-concierge. So
this is a hybrid model. This is both.
Yeah, hybrid model means that they charge a fee and they also charge insurance. But everybody who has insurance also pays a fee. So usually you fall within, holistically under, a concierge model or another type of model. You're right. If you are a practice whose half of your patients are concierge model, have insurance and pay you a fee, and half of them they have insurance, don't pay a fee, then there's definitely some discrimination going on there,
Correct.
Which could be a conflict. But majority of these practices, to be compliant, they have to pick. They have to either have charge everybody a fee or charge nobody a fee. Now, some of these practices, they could waive the fees based on under certain circumstances to comply with certain rules, such as the certificate of need rules in DC, that they require you to see Medicaid patients, and Medicaid patients don't want to pay that stipend. So, they have to kind of, balance these, conflicting regulations and requirements between state and the federal. It's not simple.
So the conflict becomes really on the private side is that when you sign a contract in the Maryland area with Care First, Blue Cross Blue Shield, within the contract says you're not allowed to bill the members for anything that is covered by them.
Right.
Somehow they found a loophole around that because I think it's called VIP MD is a huge concierge, and that concierge is mostly for internal medicine. And they charge a subscription fee of $2,500 a year. And their promise is because of that, they can limit their practice to 300 or 400 patients.
Right.
And so you have access to your doctor in a way that you wouldn't have it anywhere else. Such a small panel that they really know you. They don't have to charge you for the phone call, the email. They just, you're paying for that service and that wraparound fee. And if you need to come into the office, it's a 45-minute appointment. They promise you a same day appointment and coordination of care. So it's a very, like it's a Ritz-Carlton of medicine.
Correct.
There is an in-between, which was this one medical model, which seemed to be a failure on the clinic side. Their revenue is coming from the Medicare Advantage side that they bought another company in the Midwest, where they charge a small fee, $200 a month, and they promise you a highly technology-driven practice that appeals to the very healthy city dweller. And that's all they do, but they were even losing money with that. And then there is the DPC model where you don't bill insurance at all. You just take a small subscription fee a month per patient directly from the patient, and you make special arrangements with the radiology, with the labs, medical equipment, where they get really the same prices as if they were fully insured, but they pay for it out of pocket. And that appeals very much to the very well-educated who have high deductibles, and they want to know what their out-of-pocket limit's going to be for the family. And they're like, this works. I'm getting a huge discount. I would be paying out of my own pocket at whatever rate the insurance company tells me to do. It's all fascinating, and I really would love to explore that more with you at another episode.
Think about it. If insurance companies cost, they're gonna. If I buy insurance today, I pay about $850 per month for just me on a insurance on the exchange, right, on a monthly basis. That comes out to be about, I don't know, $10,000 a year. Now, if I get, if you're thinking about your costs, right? If I buy a catastrophic insurance that covers me for anything that happens in the hospital, and then that I pay $200 a month, and then I pay another $200 a month to be part of a DPC, even $300 a month, I'm still saving X amount of dollars on an annual basis. Yeah. So these models, I feel like they have some value because they are reducing some costs if you can combine, different insurance types with the services that they provide, and you're generally a healthy person and you take care of yourself, eat well, exercise, don't sit at your desk for 20 hours a day. So that it could have some benefits, and I see some of my clients who are DPCs or who are hybrid models or concierge models. There are benefits to it. They see that the patients want it. They're getting better care. They're getting more time with the physician, and they're satisfied.
Yes, I want to pick your brain a little bit about GW. So after you did medical school, you did law school, then you went to their Entrepreneur Development Network. What's that, and what's exactly that you do there?
No, that's very interesting process, because my cousin who teaches at Ohio University is a scientist, teaches there. He told me that every school, every state has an I Corp, which helps budding companies to learn how to, understand their market. And they start with that. They teach you, it's free, it's state funded. They teach you how to basically go from zero to figuring out what your clients want, and then from there making a business out of it. So this is the I Corp in George Washington University. We applied to that for Perla. And then we kind of ended up going to a partnership that they have, which is called Entrepreneur Development Network of DC, EDN DC. That is a partnership between GW and Howard University. And this program is funded by Wells Fargo Foundation, which allows these guys to come and teach you how to reach your clientele. They give you lectures, then they tell you what to do, and then you go and do it. You call your clients, you find your clients, and you do 20 interviews to validate your concept and to see whether the market is ready to accept you and whether your clients really actually think your solution is worthwhile. It was a fantastic program. It's free. We learned a lot. We called a lot of people. We had a lot of good connections, and they continue mentoring you with 4 mentors perpetually. I mean, it's amazing.
That's very cool. So how long is the program initially?
It's a 2-week intensive program. Okay. I spent a lot of time in those 2 weeks. I was just like not sleeping, just calling and putting stuff together. It was pretty intense.
That's very cool. There's another not-for-profit organization, which I think it's national, called SVP. And then they put the name of the city they are in, for example, SVP Denver. And they get people who have been very successful in business, and then they volunteer their time to help not-for-profits run their not-for-profit like a company.
I see.
It sounds like a similar concept, but in the for-profit. That's very cool. So you say every state has such a program.
Yeah, so you apply for it. It's already funded, and if they accept you in the program, then they put you through lectures, and then they give you homework, and then you have presentations based on the market research that you do. So it's an initial step you take from idea to market research.
So just so that to clarify for the audience, you have to have a concept already. You apply with a concept. You don't just go, I'd like to be an entrepreneur, so I take the course and see what idea I come up with.
No, because you got to go find your customers and interview your customers. You get the most out of it, I think, when you actually have come up with an idea. Say, hey, I think this is a good idea, and then you go put it to the test.
Very good, very good. And so as you were doing that, you were launching Perla. And what problem was Perla trying to solve? What was the key problem you were trying to solve?
Perla is a marketplace. So it has 2 buckets. So we're trying to solve 2 problems, not only one problem. One problem that we solve is relationship and connections. But each side of the coin has, or the platform has, their own specific issues. If we talk about physicians, as you know, everything is extremely specialized in healthcare, right? So that means that if you have a problem and you want to find an expert to help you with that, you want to find the expert who is doing that specific thing, right? Even me as a healthcare attorney, I don't do a lot of reimbursements. I don't do a lot of mergers and acquisitions. I focus my work in physicians' offices, specifically, very specific regulatory issues. So when you're searching for someone like me, you want to be able to find me, not find another healthcare attorney who's a malpractice attorney, who's calling himself a healthcare attorney, who doesn't do what I do. But when you do a Google search, you end up getting his name because he's calling himself a healthcare attorney. So we're trying to make this system more efficient, provide more option to physicians who are trying to work on their business rather than in their business, and reduce the amount of time that they spend on searching and interviewing and sort of finding the help that they need. So in our research, we find that, on average, if you want to find a healthcare attorney, for example, you may spend between 1 to 2 hours of searching on the internet, getting a list of names, and another 10 to 15 before you actually hire someone, research what they do, interview them, get their pricing, get their proposals, and then finally hiring someone. We're trying to reduce that amount of time to a very, very small number. If we can cut it by half, 50%, that's a very good achievement, but we want to do more. The other issue is option from the physician side. If you don't have options, you are not going to get a good deal. So we want to put in front of physicians options so they can go and say, hey, you know what? I have access to 5 healthcare attorneys who do this specific thing that I want to do. I want to call them and get the best price, best estimate that I can get. So calling a friend and getting a referral does not provide you a lot of options. I mean, I know that that's a way that a lot of physicians do this, but if you do construction, there's a rule of 3s. That means you always have to get at least 3 estimates to get the best deal for your business. So we want to make sure that physicians have that option, the 3s. And the last is that I get a lot of clients in my practice who come to me with let's say a $2,000 problem, but they've already spent $10,000 at it because they went to someone who was not in that field, in the specific, they didn't understand the specificities of the field. So we want to reduce the cost on that side as well. So when you go to someone who knows what they're doing, they charge you less, they take this amount of time, they know what you're talking about, and you can get your problem resolved very economically and very efficient. So that's one side of the problem. Do we have time for me to go to the
Yes. We're very interested in what you're solving.
So the other side of the problem, which are advisors such as myself, and I've been doing this, I had my own firm for the past 12 years. I market in the space. I want to reach the correct clients. And with the tools that I have today, I waste a large amount of my time on calls that are not in my specific specialty, right? I'm a healthcare attorney. I have to advertise as healthcare attorney. When I receive a call, it's like, hey, neighbor's dog bit me, and I'm in a hospital. I need an attorney. I'm not it. My ex-girlfriend stole my medical information. I want to sue him for HIPAA. Well, I'm not it. I'm a business attorney, and this is not a HIPAA issue. So I'm constantly answering calls, and I answer all of my calls myself. It doesn't go to a third party. So I'm answering calls all day long with my advertisement that are, waste of time and energy and money, because every time they click on my ads, I have to pay. The other issue is that because physicians in the healthcare world are very high income, everybody and their mother wants to advertise to that healthcare industry. So you have all the way from car dealers all the way down to magazines and home insurance, whatever. You think about their advertising to the healthcare profession. So there's a lot that's going on. Doctors are inundated by advertisement and marketing, and it's very hard to sift through the things they really need and the experts that they want to have. And from our side, it's hard to reach the people that we really need to reach, to tell them, hey, we have the expertise, come get our help. So that's we're solving that issue on the other side, that we're really we're bridging a gap between these two, the specialists and the people who need the help. And we want to make that interaction and relationship extremely efficient. So, we increase efficiency, we decrease the cost, and we sort of make things happen quickly.
Now, on the what I would call a vendor or advisor side of Perla, do you vet these people or?
We currently we require every vendor to file an application. Once they file an application, we take a day or two to go look at their background, see what their experience has been, look at their reviews, make sure that they have experience in the healthcare area of whatever that they're applying for, whatever field that they're applying for, before we allow them to sign up to the platform. So anyone who comes into the platform has at least experience in healthcare. And then we have another layer that we verify them by our company, verified by Perla. And those are the guys who have excellent online reviews, and they have no infractions on their licenses. And they also have been in the healthcare in that field for more than 5 years. So we do 2 layers, but generally anyone on the platform must have healthcare business, healthcare background, healthcare business at the minimum.
Very interesting. And because you're right, that's always a very, very difficult to figure out who to trust. I usually call you and you tell me who to call.
No, I did. A lot of my clients call me for accountants, for practice manager, for FMV determination, for other types of, they call me for doing an attorney work, and I have to refer them to someone who specializes in that. I don't take every case that comes through.
Yes, a friend of mine who got into a little bit of trouble with his medical record in Virginia, and you recommended Joe.
That's right.
Yeah, and phenomenal work. It saved his practice. But this is a great idea. You already told me how you got from idea to the very early start. You went through this program at GW, and you figured out what your clients needed, and that informed your business plan to launch.
Correct. So there are 2 sides to the business. There's the development side, the technology side of it, and then there's the business marketing side of it. DC really allowed us to get in with our clientele and kind of figure out the marketing aspect of it. On the development side, I think we interviewed more than about 56 vendors, development vendors across the globe. We interviewed each one for maybe more than 3 times until we found one person. And we found actually 3 or 4, but then we had a cybersecurity expert who told us, which one to pick. And then we picked the one that was based out of US. So all of our infrastructure was initially built in the US with the US guys on the mainland. So we wanted to make sure that, it's kosher up front. So that took, and then I had to personally learn how to create what they call in the field MVP, not the most valuable player, but minimum viable product in the development. Because initially when we submitted our thoughts to a developer, they wanted to charge us $2 million to develop it. I'm like, what? You can't get into business with $2 million. Are you crazy? So we had to learn how to actually create wireframing and screenshots and sort of develop a workflow for our platform ourselves. And we did it all ourselves, me and my co-founder, to come up with an MVP that was initially, affordable. It was affordable for us to be able to develop. So it took a while for us to, I'm an attorney, right? So I had to learn a lot before I can get to that point.
And you got to do work in the meantime. And so then did you go out and do some angel investor fundraising or?
Yeah, so we initially bootstrapped it, and we are currently now sort of starting to talk to angel investors. I have feelers out through my network for people who are interested in investing. I attend, entrepreneurial events such as Connectpreneur or other events that you get exposed to investors and other founders. So it comes down to, at the end, getting angel investment. It comes down to a lot of networking, a lot of just going out there, meeting people, going to events, showing up and talking to people. And everybody says no, right? Everybody says, no, you need to show this. You got to find the person who's in your field, understand what's happening, has done this a couple of times before, and then they have the money and authority to kind of, make the investment. And finding that person requires 200, 300 interactions and meetings before you really get to the point where somebody understands what you're doing. And
So an angel investor or a VC investor is like a marriage, right?
absolutely. Absolutely.
It's a lot of dating, and then you better pick the right person because you're going to live with them very closely for the whole journey, or the divorce is going to be very ugly, right?
Yeah, I mean, it ruins your business. If you get into bed with someone who's not, in the right mind, the same culture, it's going to ruin your business.
And so how is Perla doing? Is the marketplace accepting and happy to have?
So marketplace, we haven't really fully launched it, although we are on the website and we have the platform showcased, and we have partners with local trade organization, medical societies. We're going to have a development launch maybe within the next 15 days. And it was supposed to be yesterday, but we didn't make it. It has to be in 15 days that we're going to kind of launch, and then full force marketing into the market to see where we get. So we're still in the beta phase, kind of figuring out. We've already figured out all the changes that we want to make, and now we're going to launch in about 15 days.
Nice. And I think you talked to Mike in Miami about user interface design. And was that an interesting conversation?
Absolutely. Yeah. I talked to Mike. Mike has a very interesting background. Not only he does UI UX, but he also has done a lot of marketing in healthcare. So that was a part, actually, I wanted to work with him, and we're supposed to connect this month for him to audit our marketing copy before we, go fully.
He's a very bright person.
Yeah. Super nice guy. Very nice.
Super nice. Very, very bright. What have I not asked you that you think is important for our listeners to know, either about healthcare law or Perla?
That's a good question. I think you've covered very well. I think the concepts, we talked about everything. I think, one thing that I always hammer down at the end of the day is that, follow the rule of threes. You always, as a medical professional who's searching for business assistance, always get your estimates, and I think that'll help you a lot in terms of your efficiency, your cost, your quality of work that you receive. Always go through that process. And I think that's very good.
I have a touchy-feely question.
All right.
Do you regret not going into residency and pursuing a medical career?
Sometimes, yes, I do. I mean, if I go back and do it again, I think about maybe I do 1 year of residency before I leaving medicine. But then the problem that we have today is that, we do not allow physicians with 1 year of residency to practice. And now we have to compete with nurse practitioners and, everybody else who does PAs who do 2 years of training, and we can't practice after 4 years of 5 years of training. So yes and no. Sometimes I get nostalgic. It would have been nice if I could go see patients and had my license. But then I'm like, well, I would have had to do at least 7 years, right, in order to get my license. So 1 year, 2 years. I don't know. It's a mixed feeling. I can't.
Yeah.
Mixed feeling.
It is regrettable that the rules are so unfair. I mean, I can be a PA by just going on online course, and in 18 months, I'm a PA, and I can work for an orthopedic surgeon. When I get tired of that, I can work for a dermatologist. And when I get tired of that, I can work for a pediatrician, and no one stops me. Mm-hmm. But if you're a physician, you got to spend all this time and money. And then if you decide mid-career, well, I'm not happy being a pediatrician anymore. Why can't I go work with the orthopedic surgeons in town and see all the kids? Well, you can't do that. You can't get credentialed by the insurance companies. The hospital won't admit you. And it's like, but you're letting this PA with 18 months online course do it. Do it. What do you mean? You don't think that if PA can learn how to be an orthopedic non-surgical person, that I can't? No, you can't. You got to go back and do a fellowship.
I mean, doctors have, I've talked to many doctors about this issue. I fall on the side of, listen, we need to be able to, after 5 years, be able to have a general physician license, just like it was back in 1996 in Maryland. You can get a license and become a general physician, see patients. But a lot of doctors, especially the old school guys, are very adamant about you going through residency, getting your voluntary certifications. And I don't really see at this point, with all the specializations and all the little narrow, the gig economy, this is not sustainable. We're really, anyway, don't get me started on that.
That's very interesting. I do have a question about Perla. So as a physician or physician practice, how much do I have to pay for your service?
Zero.
Zero. So it's free to the doctor.
Yeah.
So no friction there.
None.
Excellent. Excellent. Georgie, do you have any more questions from Reza?
No, I think you did a very good job. I know I really hope that physicians continue to go to medical school and people continue to, because I think there's a value to physician. We need physicians. You can't be replaced by a darn computer.
No.
I find bugs in the computer all day long. There's something wrong.
Yeah.
And I just have to kill one person by accident. You know,
Yeah.
this interesting story. This is where computers can't be the best thing in the world for everything. I had to pick up my son from the airport the other day at a very well-known, used to be a good airlines, right? He texts me, I landed. So we landed 20 minutes early. So I'm driving from Long Island to pick him up. It takes about 30, 40 minutes to get to the airport. I get there, he's texting me, I'm waiting for my bags. I'm waiting for my bags. They had checked in my bag. I'm waiting. So I drove for 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and I'm still waiting. He's still waiting for his bag. So now I'm sitting and waiting for him. And why do you think he's waiting for his bag? Because somebody typed into the computer, go to carousel number 3 to pick up your bags. When in essence, the entire plane should have been in carousel number 7. So all their bags were taken off the plane, put into a corner. So you had 300 people waiting for the bags at the wrong place because of darn computer. No human, nobody thinks that what are these people all waiting for? That nothing's happening.
Yeah.
You can't do that in medicine.
We really, as
One
a
mistake is no good.
we've lost a lot of common sense.
Yeah.
And just like the simple ability to add or subtract, it's regrettable. You go pay at the grocery store and you pay in cash, and the cashier kind of looks at you first weird because you got cash, and second, if she can't type in how much you put in, and then it tells her how much to return to you, they don't know how to do that anymore. It's regrettable.
And
But anyhow,
give them a coin.
oh yeah, they don't like coins. But this has been a wonderful morning. Thank you so much for being with us, Reza. I hope you will come back soon and we can talk some more, not only about different group models, like CINs, IPAs, groups without walls, fully integrated models, because it seems that's what you're doing a lot of, and payment models, but also we are trying to get a special podcast with Carrie, right, on track of contracts for partner. And that would be phenomenal to have a lawyer in that roundtable.
Okay.
So hopefully we'll see you soon. Thank you for your time and best of luck with Perla. We'll certainly be looking for your success.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting me. Have a nice day.
Bye-bye.